Something big is happening in the world of retail, something most people never saw coming. Some of America's most well-known and trusted companies, the very ones we've grown up with and relied on for everything from groceries to furniture, are now facing a financial storm they might not survive. As 2025 unfolds, it's becoming clear that even the giants aren't immune. These retail powerhouses, once busy and bustling, are now struggling to stay afloat, drowning in debt, watching their revenues shrink, and getting crushed by brutal competition. Across the country, thousands of workers are being laid off. Beloved stores are vanishing from neighborhoods. And if you've ever shopped at these places, you might want to pay attention, because this could be your last chance before the doors shut forever. Let's start with a store that's been a favorite for bargain hunters and budget-savvy families for years: Big Lots. For many, Big Lots is more than just a discount store. It's a local treasure. Known for its low-cost furniture, seasonal decor, and household basics, it's been a go-to for stretching dollars. But behind the shelves and sale signs, the company is in deep trouble. Big Lots is facing what might be its most critical moment yet. In the past year alone, its same-store sales dropped by a staggering 14.6%. That's not just a dip, it's a red flag. And financially, things are even worse. The company's liabilities have ballooned to $2.6 billion, and it's bracing for losses of over $250 million in 2024. That kind of financial hit isn't easy to come back from, especially when consumers, struggling with inflation, are spending less on non-essentials. The warning signs are already flashing. Store closures have begun, and in a shocking move, Big Lots plans to shut down up to 315 locations nationwide, nearly a third of its entire footprint. If your local Big Lots hasn't closed yet, it could be just a matter of time. But the challenges don't stop there. In a world where online shopping is booming, Big Lots is falling behind fast. Online sales make up less than 5% of its revenue, a devastating disadvantage when up against digital titans like Amazon and Walmart. And here's the part that might seal its fate. Analysts are predicting that Big Lots could file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the first half of 2025. That would allow the company to restructure and attempt a comeback, but it would come at a serious cost, possibly including even more closures and layoffs. So, what does this mean for the future of Big Lots? And what other household name retailers could be next in line? Stay tuned, because what's coming next might surprise you even more. The retail landscape isn't just shifting, it's collapsing. Behind the headlines of store closures are real lives, real families, and the unraveling of communities that have depended on these stores for decades. We're not just talking about the loss of shopping convenience, we're talking about the livelihoods of thousands. With Big Lots teetering on the edge, the impact goes beyond merchandise. It could mean 22,000 workers suddenly without a job, and neighborhoods left without their once trusted retail anchor. It's a sobering reminder of how fragile the retail world is in today's unpredictable economy. And as if that wasn't alarming enough, another beloved name is now standing on that same cliff's edge. Let's talk about Jo-Ann Fabrics, or as many crafters know it, simply Jo-Ann. For generations, Jo-Ann has been more than just a fabric store. It's been a haven for creativity, a quiet sanctuary where imagination turned into handmade gifts, DIY home projects, and small business dreams. Whether you needed fabric for a baby quilt or supplies for a holiday centerpiece, Jo-Ann was the place that had your back. But now, that creative heart is breaking. In 2024, Jo-Ann's revenue plunged by a jaw-dropping 99.4%. Yes, you heard that right. At the same time, the company's debt surged past $1 billion, leaving Jo-Ann in one of the most dangerous financial positions it has ever faced. The aftershocks of the pandemic are still being felt, from supply chain chaos to shifting shopping habits. And with inflation squeezing household budgets, fewer people are spending on hobbies. The crafting boom of the lockdown era, it's fading fast. Jo-Ann is struggling. Once popular items like sewing kits, fabrics, and art supplies are no longer flying off the shelves. And now, Jo-Ann is seriously considering Chapter 11 bankruptcy, a move that could result in the closure of nearly 30% of its 800 stores across the United States. That means your local Jo-Ann could disappear, and with it, a trusted space for creativity, community, and comfort. But here's what makes it even more heartbreaking. This isn't just about store closures. It's about 22,000 employees, many of them lifelong staff, who've built their careers in these aisles, helping customers bring their visions to life. If Joann falls, it won't just be the end of a business. It will be the end of an era, one where people were inspired, where ideas blossomed, and where memories were hand-stitched into every corner. With big box stores like Walmart and Target undercutting prices, and Amazon dominating with faster delivery and more choices, Joann is stuck in a tough position. The company has also struggled to modernize, losing 25% in operational profits just last year. If Joann has ever been a part of your creative journey, maybe now's the time to show support, because soon, that familiar store may be gone for good. And unfortunately, Joann isn't alone. Another American icon is fighting to stay relevant in a world that's quickly forgetting it. Enter J.C. Penney, a name that once symbolized the golden age of American retail. For many families, J.C. Penney wasn't just a store, it was a tradition. Back-to-school shopping trips, holiday gift runs, and Sunday strolls through the department store. These were memories that defined childhoods. But those memories are starting to fade as J.C. Penney struggles to keep the lights on. The last decade has been a steep, downhill slide. Yes, the company did manage to crawl out of bankruptcy in 2020, but the comeback has been anything but smooth. In 2024, JCPenney saw a 7.8% drop in same-store sales, a clear sign that customers are no longer walking through its doors the way they used to. And this is just the beginning of JCPenney's story, a story that may be reaching its final chapter sooner than anyone expected. The lights at JCPenney are still on, but for how long, no one really knows. Beneath the surface, the company is drowning in debt, struggling to keep up with over $4.1 billion in interest payments. What was once a massive retail empire with over 1,100 stores has now shrunk dramatically. More than 175 locations have quietly shut their doors in recent years, and what remains is a shrinking fleet of just 650 outlets, and even those are standing on shaky ground. If you still shop at JCPenney for affordable fashion, home goods, or cosmetics, this might be the last stretch. Your local store? It could be gone next year. And it's not just the shrinking footprint or the red ink on the balance sheet. The competition is fierce and unforgiving. Amazon and Target have captured the hearts of middle-class shoppers with convenience and variety. Wealthier customers are flocking to high-end brands, while those watching every penny are turning to TJ Maxx and Ross. JCPenney is stuck in the middle, desperately trying to keep up, and failing. Their efforts to modernize through digital upgrades and store renovations have largely fallen flat. Compare that to Macy's, which has aggressively expanded its e-commerce presence. In 2024, JCPenney's online sales made up a measly 15% of total revenue, a devastating weakness in today's digital-first world. But let's not forget what's at the core of this crisis: the people. More than 50,000 employees still work at JCPenney, many of whom have dedicated their lives to the company. They now face an uncertain future, with corporate leadership insisting a turnaround is on the horizon. But experts are skeptical, and many believe that unless something truly drastic changes, this could be the final chapter for one of America's most iconic retailers. It wouldn't just be another closure, it would be the fall of a cultural cornerstone that served generations of families. And just when you think the storm couldn't get worse, another name, once synonymous with luxury and elegance, is also teetering on the edge. Let's turn to Neiman Marcus. The name alone evokes a world of glamour, sparkling jewelry, designer fashion, exclusive handbags. For decades, Neiman Marcus has represented the peak of upscale retail, a dream destination for the well-heeled shopper. But behind its glamorous front lies a reality that's far less pretty. Despite shedding some debt in its 2020 bankruptcy, Neiman Marcus is now facing renewed financial pain. Revenue dropped by 12% in 2024, revealing a harsh truth. Even the wealthy are tightening their belts. With rising interest rates, the company's $1 billion debt is becoming heavier by the day. But the bigger issue? Neiman Marcus has fallen behind in the race for online dominance. While competitors like Nordstrom and Saks Fifth Avenue have invested heavily in digital experiences, Neiman Marcus has moved too slowly. As a result, its online sales account for only 30% of total revenue, a disappointing figure in a luxury market increasingly driven by convenience and tech-savvy shoppers. In today's fast-paced, digital-first world, luxury is no longer just about chandeliers and velvet lounges. It's about sleek websites, fast shipping, and curated online experiences. Sadly, Neiman Marcus has been slow to adapt, and now it's paying the price. The company has already closed multiple locations and scaled back to just 36 stores nationwide. Even its iconic flagship in Dallas, Texas, is feeling the pressure, with shrinking sales and rising costs eating into margins. Insiders suggest that more closures are coming, and soon. What's worse is the feeling of loss among loyal customers. Some say Neiman Marcus no longer feels exclusive, that it has traded luxury for mass appeal. And in doing so, it may have lost its identity. If something doesn't change fast, if the company doesn't find a way to reinvent itself, Neiman Marcus could vanish, and with it, an era of refined, elegant shopping that many thought would last forever. Now might be the last chance for longtime customers to show their support. Because if you've ever splurged on a special gift, a dream dress, or a once-in-a-lifetime piece at Neiman Marcus, the time to revisit might be now, before it's too late. And just when you thought this retail unraveling couldn't get any more complicated, legal troubles are about to enter the picture. Let's talk about a store that once felt like part of the neighborhood, the corner drugstore you could always count on. Rite Aid, for years, was a lifeline, a trusted place to pick up prescriptions, grab cold medicine, or find everyday essentials just minutes from home. But now, this familiar chain is facing one of the biggest crises in its history, and it may not survive much longer. The company is drowning in over $3.3 billion in debt, and if that wasn't enough, it's also being crushed by more than $1 billion in lawsuits tied to its alleged involvement in the opioid epidemic. These legal battles haven't just drained Rite Aid's financial resources, they've shattered public trust. The damage to the brand is so severe that many longtime customers have stopped shopping there altogether. And as the world moves forward, Rite Aid has been left behind. While competitors like CVS and Walgreens have embraced change, adding walk-in clinics, digital prescription services, and modernized health platforms, Rite Aid has struggled to keep up. It's clinging to an outdated business model in a world that's moving faster than ever. In a desperate move to stay afloat, the company has announced plans to shut down around 400 underperforming stores by the end of 2024. And that's not just a blow to the business, it's a blow to communities across the country. Many neighborhoods rely on Rite Aid for accessible, affordable healthcare and pharmacy services. Without it, people will have to travel farther for the medications they depend on. But this isn't just a story about a crumbling company. It's a human story. A story about 45,000 employees who now face uncertain futures. For many of them, Rite Aid isn't just a job. It's a career, a lifeline, a source of stability. And now, that foundation is cracking beneath their feet. Think about it. How many times have you rushed to Rite Aid for something urgent, something important, something personal? If things don't change, and fast, Rite Aid could vanish, becoming just another name on the growing list of once reliable retailers that couldn't survive the storm. And if you thought that was the last of the big names facing collapse, think again. Another longtime favorite is losing its footing fast. Let's shift gears to the world of sneakers, where Foot Locker once reigned supreme. For sportswear lovers and sneakerheads, Foot Locker wasn't just a store, it was a ritual. The long lines for exclusive drops, the thrill of hunting down the perfect pair, the connection between culture, fashion, and identity, all wrapped up in a pair of sneakers. But that era may be ending. Foot Locker is struggling to keep up in a rapidly changing industry. In 2024 alone, the company suffered a stunning 10% drop in sales year over year, reporting a net loss of over $35 million. With malls seeing fewer and fewer shoppers, many of which house Foot Locker stores, the writing is on the wall. And here's where it gets worse. Nearly 65% of Foot Locker's inventory comes from Nike, but Nike has shifted gears. Instead of supplying Foot Locker with exclusive shoes, they're now focused on selling directly to customers through their own stores and websites. That leaves Foot Locker without its biggest draw, and without the products that used to set it apart. To make matters worse, e-commerce giants like Amazon and competitors like Adidas are flooding the market with easier, faster, and cheaper ways to shop. Foot Locker's attempt to move online has been slow and shaky. In fact, online sales still make up just 20% of its overall revenue, far behind rivals who are thriving by going all in on digital. And the consequences are already taking shape. The company has announced plans to close 400 stores by 2026, many of them in struggling malls that are already ghost towns. These closures will leave thousands out of work and entire communities without a go-to store for shoes and athletic gear. If you've ever made a memory inside a Foot Locker, buying your first Jordans, gearing up for game day, or getting that perfect fit, you might want to stop by one last time, because soon the doors may close for good. The fall of Foot Locker wouldn't just be the end of a store. It would be the loss of a lifestyle, a culture, and a tradition that once meant so much to so many. For anyone who still enjoys the thrill of walking into a store, spotting the perfect pair of shoes, and walking out with a fresh box in hand, losing a place like Foot Locker hits differently. But the heartbreak doesn't stop there. Next up is a store that brought beauty to chaos, a name synonymous with sleek organization, clever design, and calm among the clutter, the Container Store. But beneath the polished shelves and tidy aisles, this company is battling a financial storm that may be impossible to escape. For years, the Container Store has been a haven for people trying to get their lives in order, whether it was transforming a messy closet into a picture of perfection or finding the exact bin that would finally tame your overflowing pantry. But today, this once-loved retailer is gasping for air. In 2024, quarterly sales plummeted by 20%, and annual revenue sank to under $900 million, a steep drop from where the company stood just a few years ago. Even more alarming, the Container Store reported over $25 million in losses in the last quarter alone. The truth is, in a world where megastores like Walmart, Amazon, and Target offer similar products at lower prices, customers are having a hard time justifying the premium cost of the Container Store's goods. Their high-end Alpha Closet systems, once a top seller, now feel like a luxury fewer people can afford, especially with inflation tightening wallets and interest rates on the rise. While the retail landscape races toward digital, less than 30% of the Container Store's sales come from online shoppers. That puts them far behind competitors who have made the internet their playground. And as foot traffic to physical locations declines, especially in high-rent prime areas, the business is struggling to stay relevant. The company has already begun closing underperforming stores, and more closures are on the horizon. That means layoffs, reduced hours, and deep uncertainty for its 5,000 employees. To make matters worse, their stock has crashed by more than 60% in just 1 year, a warning sign investors can't ignore. If the Container Store has ever helped you find peace and organization, this could be the time to show support. Because unless something major shifts, this elegant brand could soon vanish, another casualty of a changing world and shrinking spending power. But the unraveling doesn't stop there. Now let's turn our attention to Express, once a shining name in American fashion retail. There was a time when Express was the go-to store for modern workwear, trend-setting outfits, and statement jewelry. It dressed young professionals, stylish students, and anyone looking for affordable, sharp fashion. But today, Express is fading fast, and it's almost unrecognizable. In 2024, same-store sales dropped 6%, and overall revenue sank to just over $1.6 billion, far below its peak years. Meanwhile, the company's net losses surged past $200 million, showing just how deep this crisis runs. So, what went wrong? Express has been drowned out by fast fashion titans like Zara, H&M, and Shein, brands that pump out new, trendy collections at lightning speed and at prices shoppers can't resist. While those rivals race ahead, Express has struggled to stay relevant. Online, the picture isn't any brighter. Only 30% of Express's sales come from e-commerce, and that's a big problem in an age where most shoppers are just a click away from their next outfit. Express has relied too heavily on traditional brick-and-mortar stores, many of which are located in dying malls where foot traffic continues to drop. And here's where it gets even more troubling. Many of those same malls are already losing their anchor stores. As they empty out, so do the customers. And Express, which depends on those in-person shoppers, is left holding the bag. Unless Express can reinvent itself fast, digitally, culturally, and financially, it may not survive the next chapter of retail. The warning signs are blinking red. The question now is, will it adapt in time, or will it become yet another ghost of fashion past? And things get even bleaker for one of fashion's former frontrunners. Express, once the stylish heartbeat of malls across America, is now stuck in a business model that no longer works. As foot traffic dries up and leasing costs skyrocket, the company is being forced to make painful decisions. Dozens of locations have already shut their doors, and many more are expected to disappear in 2025, stripping away convenient shopping options for longtime customers. And behind those closing doors, roughly 9,000 workers who are now facing a future filled with uncertainty. To add to the turmoil, Express's stock has crashed by more than 70% in just 1 year, a brutal blow for shareholders, and a grim signal that the brand's survival is in serious doubt. If Express holds a special place in your shopping memories, now may be your last chance to visit your neighborhood store or show support online before this retail icon vanishes for good. But they're not the only ones struggling to stay relevant. Number 9. Fossil, a timeless brand at risk of running out of time. There was a time when Fossil was the destination for affordable, stylish watches, wallets, and leather bags. It wasn't just a store, it was a place to find thoughtful gifts, timeless accessories, and a sense of style without the luxury price tag. But today, Fossil is facing an identity crisis and possibly extinction. Back in its prime, Fossil was raking in nearly $3 billion in annual sales. But in 2024, that number dropped dramatically to $1.7 billion, along with a 12% year-over-year sales loss. Even more troubling, the company posted net losses of over $90 million, raising major concerns about whether it can survive the economic storms ahead. So what changed? The smartwatch revolution. Devices like the Apple Watch have completely transformed the market. In fact, Apple alone now outsells the entire Swiss watch industry. That's how much the game has changed. Fossil tried to keep up. They launched hybrid and smartwatches of their own, but they never really took off, accounting for less than 20% of sales. Meanwhile, rivals like Michael Kors and Kate Spade have swooped in with trendier, fashion-forward accessories that have eaten into Fossil's customer base. And as more shoppers shift to direct-to-consumer brands and online stores, Fossil's physical locations are struggling. The company has already begun reducing its retail footprint, and store closures and layoffs are expected to accelerate this year. For longtime fans of the brand, this feels like the end of an era. Fossil wasn't just a store. It was a go-to for birthdays, anniversaries, or that perfect leather wallet that seemed to last forever. If Fossil has ever been part of your story, now might be the moment to show your support. Because unless something dramatic changes, this iconic brand may soon tick down to its final hours. Number 10. Petco, fighting to keep its tail. Wagging, for decades, Petco has been a trusted friend to pet owners across the country. Whether it was your puppy's first chew toy or a last-minute bag of cat food, Petco has been there. But behind the friendly aisles of dog treats and grooming stations, this pet care giant is quietly struggling to stay alive. In 2024, same-store sales dropped 4.5%, and total annual revenue remained stagnant at just over $6 billion, not the kind of growth investors or customers want to see. At the same time, Petco is buried under $1.7 billion in debt, and with interest rates climbing, that burden is getting harder to carry. The challenges don't stop at debt. The pet supply space is more competitive than ever, with Amazon, Chewy, and Walmart all delivering pet goods faster and often cheaper. And while Petco has invested in services like veterinary care and grooming, these haven't been enough to offset the stiff competition or win back lost customers. Stores are starting to feel emptier. Operating costs are up. And unless something changes soon, Petco could be forced to close more locations, putting the jobs of thousands of employees at risk, and leaving communities without a local place to care for their pets. This isn't just about money, it's about memories, about the pets you've loved and lost, about the ones still happily riding shotgun on your way to the store. If Petco has ever helped you care for your furry, feathered, or scaled friend, now might be the time to show some love in return, before this household name becomes just another piece of retail history. As the retail landscape tightens, Petco's slow adaptation to the evolving pet care industry has left it vulnerable. Giants like Chewy and Amazon have completely reshaped consumer expectations with subscription services, lower prices, and lightning-fast delivery. And the numbers don't lie. Chewy alone now dominates nearly half of all online pet product sales. Meanwhile, Petco's online performance is lagging, with e-commerce making up just 20% of its total revenue. That's a troubling gap in a market where convenience is king. With inflation squeezing household budgets, even loyal pet parents are turning to cheaper options. And while Petco has made moves, like expanding grooming and veterinary services, those investments haven't brought the financial rebound the company desperately needs. To make matters worse, many Petco stores are locked into leases in high-cost retail zones. As foot traffic dwindles, these prime real estate locations are becoming financial deadweight. The company has already announced plans to shut down 75 underperforming stores in 2025, but insiders warn that number could rise. Behind the scenes, layoffs and major restructurings loom, placing the futures of 27,000 employees in jeopardy. If Petco has played a role in your pet's life, now may be the time to give back. Because without a bold turnaround, this trusted name in pet care could be another casualty of an unforgiving retail market. Number 11. Lowe's, big box, bigger troubles. When it comes to home improvement, Lowe's has been a household name for generations, a place where pros and DIYers alike go to build dreams, one project at a time. But today, that iconic blue sign is starting to fade as Lowe's faces one of its toughest challenges yet. In 2024, Lowe's reported flat revenues of just over $92 billion, a far cry from its growth years. Same-store sales dropped 3.5%, and while that might not sound alarming at first glance, it masks serious problems beneath the surface, from shrinking foot traffic to eroding profit margins and a failure to keep pace with market trends. A big part of the issue? The shifting economy. With inflation and high interest rates driving up mortgage and household costs, many homeowners are pulling back on renovations and upgrades. That's bad news for Lowe's, especially since the company has long catered to DIY customers, a group now hit hardest by economic constraints. At the same time, Home Depot has surged ahead, thanks to better pricing, specialized contractor services, and bulk supply options that cater to professional builders and large-scale buyers. And then there's Lowe's massive footprint, over 1,700 locations nationwide. Maintaining these stores isn't cheap, especially when underperformance drags them down. In response, Lowe's plans to shutter 50 of its worst-performing stores in 2025, but experts warn that this may just be the beginning. With operating costs mounting and profits thinning, the company faces an uphill battle. Thousands of jobs are potentially on the line. And for loyal customers, these closures could mean fewer local options for tools, paint, and all the things that help turn a house into a home. If Lowe's has ever helped you through a renovation, a repair, or a rainy day project, now's the time to root for its recovery, because even the biggest names can fall when they fail to adapt. Lowe's isn't just losing ground to competitors, it's falling behind the curve in the digital race. While rivals like Home Depot have invested heavily in seamless online experiences and delivery networks, Lowe's online sales only make up about 10% of total revenue, a figure that's shockingly low in today's e-commerce-driven world. Outdated inventory systems, inefficient supply chains, and frequent stock shortages have frustrated customers and damaged the brand's reputation. As a result, Lowe's stock has tumbled over 25% in the past year, wiping out billions in market value and shaking investor confidence to the core. With 300,000 employees relying on the company for their livelihood, the stakes couldn't be higher. If the current trends continue unchecked, some experts are beginning to question whether Lowe's can survive in the long run. Number 12. Stein Mart, a digital comeback gone cold. Once a beloved destination for discount fashion and home decor, Stein Mart tried to reinvent itself after closing all its physical stores during its 2020 bankruptcy. The plan? A bold pivot to an online-only model. But despite the effort, the comeback hasn't stuck. In 2024, online sales cratered 18%, and the company only brought in $220 million, a far cry from the billions in revenue Stein Mart once enjoyed at its peak. The core issue? Customers haven't followed the brand into the digital space. What made Stein Mart special? The treasure hunt shopping experience, the in-store discovery, the unique ambiance, simply doesn't translate to an online-only environment. Meanwhile, hybrid competitors like TJ Maxx and Marshalls continue to thrive, combining physical stores with strong e-commerce platforms. Stein Mart, by contrast, is struggling to compete against giants like Amazon and Overstock, who dominate with aggressive pricing, massive inventories, and rapid shipping. The company is also still weighed down by over $100 million in debt, a holdover from its bankruptcy proceedings. With razor-thin margins, there's almost no room for marketing upgrades, tech improvements, or inventory restocking, the very things needed to succeed online. The fallout has been devastating. Fewer than 500 employees remain, down from over 10,000. Its stock, once a staple of retail portfolios, is now trading for pennies after being delisted from major exchanges. Unless a major investor steps in or Stein Mart unveils a radical new strategy, analysts warn the company could shut down entirely by the end of 2025. Number 13. AMC Theaters, curtains closing on a cinema giant. Once a towering force in the entertainment world, AMC Theaters now stands on the brink of collapse. For decades, AMC was the go-to place for seeing family movie nights, first dates, and blockbuster premieres. But today, the company is buried under a crushing $4.5 billion debt load, and rising interest rates are only making that burden heavier. Theaters are no longer the default option for moviegoers. Streaming platforms like Netflix, Disney Plus, and Amazon Prime have changed how audiences consume content, often from the comfort of their own couches. The pandemic may have delivered the first blow, but it's the lack of a sustainable recovery strategy that's slowly sealing AMC's fate. Even the short-lived meme stock frenzy of 2021, which gave the company a brief financial lifeline, didn't solve the core problems. It only delayed the inevitable. That brief boost from the meme stock frenzy may have bought AMC time, but it didn't fix the cracks in its foundation. The real threat is structural. Streaming platforms like Netflix, Disney Plus, and Amazon Prime Video have completely reshaped the entertainment industry. People now expect new releases from the comfort of their living rooms without having to pay for parking, popcorn, and premium seats. Before the pandemic, AMC reached a record $5.5 billion in annual revenue. In 2024, that number plunged 9%, down to under $3.8 billion. Despite a few big box office hits, the reality is grim. Attendance hasn't bounced back, especially in suburban and rural areas, where some AMC theaters struggle to fill even half their seats during peak times. And with Hollywood studios cutting theatrical windows or skipping them entirely, AMC's financial model is crumbling. Operating over 600 locations, many of which are underperforming, has become a costly liability. The company now plans to shutter more than 50 struggling theaters in 2025, leaving some towns without a single cinema. These closures not only eliminate community entertainment hubs, they threaten the livelihoods of 35,000 AMC employees. Even flashy upgrades like IMAX and Dolby Cinema haven't reversed the trend. If the downward spiral continues, AMC might fade from the big screen altogether. Number 14. Kohl's, caught between two worlds. For decades, Kohl's has been a dependable stop for everything from back-to-school shopping to holiday gifts. But the retail giant now finds itself stuck, trapped between discount chains and upscale department stores, and unsure of how to evolve in today's retail landscape. In 2024, Kohl's annual revenue fell below $18 billion, a sharp decline from its near $20 billion peak. Same-store sales dropped 5.2%, marking the sixth consecutive quarter of losses. Net income has taken a beating too, dropping by over 50%, leaving the company barely in the black. Kohl's is facing intense pressure from all sides. Budget-conscious shoppers are turning to Walmart, Target, and Amazon, while more affluent buyers favor Nordstrom and Macy's. And despite having both physical stores and a website, Kohl's lags behind digitally. Its e-commerce only accounts for about 30% of total revenue, far less than its more digitally agile competitors. As customers continue shifting toward online-first retailers or off-price chains like TJ Maxx and Ross, foot traffic in Kohl's stores has plummeted. To make matters worse, Kohl's heavy reliance on frequent sales and coupons has trained shoppers to never pay full price, cutting deep into margins and devaluing the brand. Even new initiatives, like adding in-store beauty departments and partnering with brands like Sephora, haven't delivered the turnaround Kohl's hoped for. It remains unclear whether the company can reclaim its identity or will continue to slip through the cracks of a fast-evolving retail world. Kohl's partnership with Sephora was meant to be a bold reinvention, a way to draw younger, style-conscious shoppers back into stores. While it generated some initial buzz, the results have been underwhelming. Beyond Sephora, Kohl's core categories, apparel and home goods, continue to decline, failing to bring in the traffic or sales the company needs to stay competitive. The brand's challenges are further complicated by operational inefficiencies. With over 1,100 stores across the U.S., many are located in areas suffering from declining foot traffic or skyrocketing rents. Yet, despite these warning signs, Kohl's has not announced any major store closures, leading to a bloated cost structure that's eating into profits. Analysts warn that without drastic restructuring, including potential store closures and workforce reductions, Kohl's will struggle to remain profitable. Investor confidence has collapsed alongside the company's fortunes, with Kohl's stock down more than 40% in the past year, wiping billions from its market value. Even after activist investors demanded sweeping changes in 2023, meaningful reform has yet to materialize. The longer this uncertainty lingers, the more troubling it becomes, not just for shareholders, but for Kohl's 100,000 employees who now face a future clouded by instability. Without bold leadership and a clear identity, Kohl's could be heading toward an irreversible decline. Number 15, The Body Shop, a beauty brand. Losing its shine. Once a pioneer in ethical beauty, The Body Shop now finds itself struggling to stay relevant in an industry that's rapidly evolving around it. While it once dominated among young, socially conscious consumers, the brand has fallen behind competitors like Sephora, Ulta, and digital native disruptors like Glossier and Fenty Beauty, who offer broader product selections, better digital experiences, and stronger brand narratives. Despite its heritage of cruelty-free products and sustainable sourcing, The Body Shop has failed to modernize its image or keep up with today's eco-savvy and trend-sensitive buyers. Many see the brand as outdated, a relic of a time when just being natural was enough to earn loyalty. The company's once valuable brick-and-mortar presence is now a burden. With over 2,500 locations globally, including hundreds in the US, the brand is being crushed by high operating costs and declining foot traffic, especially in malls. By 2025, 30% of its underperforming stores will be closed, leaving many areas without access to a local Body Shop store. The problems don't end there. A lack of investment in e-commerce, influencer marketing, and modern tech infrastructure has left The Body Shop far behind its online-savvy rivals. Online sales make up less than 25% of its total revenue, and customers often complain about outdated websites, poor product availability, and a lackluster user experience. The 2017 acquisition by Natra & Co., the parent company of Avon and Aesop, for $1.1 billion was supposed to help The Body Shop scale. But instead, it added debt and increased financial strain. Now, with mounting losses and missed turnaround targets, Natra may be considering selling or shutting down the brand altogether. This uncertainty is deeply unsettling for the 10,000 workers still employed by The Body Shop. As store closures mount and operations shrink, more jobs are on the line, and the brand that once stood for conscious beauty may soon be just a memory.